welcome to the second window in the 2020 TooFatLardies Advent Calendar. You know, Christmas is a time to put your feet up, and we all like to enjoy a film or two, and we all know there are some classics. Here is Rich, and he's going to share with us his best and worst war films.
Gosh, that is a tough one. I like war films for different reasons, and which one I want to watch depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes what day it is, so on the 6th of June I might go with Saving Private Ryan or The Longest Day, maybe A Bridge Too Far in September. Films like The Battle of Britain I think are amazing for their pre-CGI battle scenes with the Spanish Air Force providing some vintage kit, albeit slightly updated. Zulu is a must-watch for me, as is The Wild Geese. However, I'm a typical wargamer, I suppose, in that I get a bit frustrated when details are wrong. So in The Wild Geese, I'm thinking, why are you wearing British Army DP camo when you're operating in southern Africa, where it's all very dusty? Bridge Too Far is the same, with quite a bit of the detail wrong. In honesty, I like rather obscure films, so the 1970 Shangani Patrol about Alan Wilson fighting the Matabele on the Shangani River is one that I love. It's reminiscent of Zulu, but set further north of the Limpopo in Matabele land. I also loved Dark of the Sun, a film set in the Congo during the struggles of post-independence from Belgium. And it focuses on a mercenary force sent to rescue a load of Belgian civilians and, more importantly, fortune in diamonds that the mine owner has very sensibly decided not to send to safety but kept in the safe in the vault of the bank, which, of course, ensures that they send somebody to pick him and his family up. It's an incredibly gritty film and presents the horrors of war very graphically, especially showing how non-combatants are usually the losers. However, I say I loved it because in preparation for this piece I watched it on Netflix. I spent my £2.49 to download it, and only to discover that some of the scenes have been axed due to modern sensibilities. Now I can understand that because frankly, it was quite a shocking film. It was certainly shocking in the late 1960s because of how graphic it is, but also because of the attitudes of some of the people in it. But to be honest with you, they've axed so much that the film loses its context as a result. So that left me pondering the film that I would have automatically have said, yeah, I really, really love this film, is a shadow of its former self. But I'm glad I did take some time. In 1977, when I was a teenager, I was in Germany and I went to the cinema to see a film called Steiner, das Eiserne Kreuz. It was a dramatisation of a book that by coincidence that I just read. A book was called The Willing Flesh by a chap called Willy Heinrich. Now, at that age, I was, 13 or so, I'd been growing up on a diet of Sven Hassel and Leo Kessler. So I think I grabbed The Willing Flesh as thinking it was a similar entity. But of course, it wasn't. Heinrich has served on the Eastern Front from 1941 to 45 and had written the novel in the 1950s. And it went pretty much unnoticed outside Germany until the film was made in 1977. And at which point they redubbed the book The Iron Cross, and indeed the film in English was called The Cross of Iron, The Cross of Iron. And the sales then went ballistic. I'm not sure if Willy Heinrich was still alive to enjoy his newfound success. I certainly hope he was, because he deserved it. Unlike the Sven Hassel books, it was a novel that was based on personal experience and not outlandish or foolish. Now, the film focuses on action on the Eastern Front in 1943, specifically in the Kuban. The story is well known, I guess. Sergeant Steiner He's already a decorated NCO. You can see on his uniform it's like a Christmas tree with first and second class Iron Cross. He has the Winterschlacht in Ostend medal, which tells you that he was there in 41, so he's definitely an old hand by now. He's got the infantry assault badge, close combat clasp, and the wound badge. So he's got the medals, but he's not your traditional hero. His focus is not on honour and duty, as one gets in so many war films, but it's about survival, and in particular that of his men, who he feels responsibility for. So post-Stalingrad, we see the arrival of Hauptmann Stransky, billed as a Prussian aristocrat who has volunteered for a transfer to the Eastern Front. And he says, when the character is introduced, that he wants to win the Iron Cross. So he's a glory hunter, and that changes everything. What I love about the film is that it's packed with very plausible action. It's got lots of the right kit, including uniforms and weapons. And, the T-34-85 is in there. So it ticks all of my wargame boxes. Now, I won't spoil the story for anyone who hasn't seen it, if such a person could exist. But it's the classic conflict between the glory hunter and the man who's already won glory and recognises its true value or lack of it, I suppose. So, Cross of Iron, or Steiner das Eiserne Kreuz, if you're German, because it was a British Anglo-German co-production, and released in Germany before it was released in the UK, actually, and then went on to be released in the United States. So it's kind of back to front for most film releases, I think. As for my worst war film, well, there are loads of bad war films out there. To be honest with you, naming war films that annoy me is so much easier than finding one that I love. Pretty much anything with Mel Gibson in it is likely to irritate me somewhat. The Battle of the Bulge is way up there, and not just because the tanks are so obviously wrong. It's that kind of gung-ho heroism that I find a little bit grating. The 1985 film Revolution was an absolute horror story from start to finish. I literally can't even list the number of things that were wrong with that film. But if you're British, it was particularly offensive. I know we're meant to be the bad guys, but reinforcing that by making most of the British characters sadistic paedophiles, it just seems to be a step too far for me. So in a way, that kind of makes me feel a bit guilty to say that for me the worst film is Dunkirk, the 2017 version, which is a little bit unfair because it doesn't come anywhere close to Revolution in as much as it doesn't portray people in a sort of cartoon caricature type fashion. But the problem with it for me is that it was just an opportunity completely missed. The evacuation at Dunkirk was simply the end of the Dunkirk story. A far better film would have concentrated on the withdrawal from the Dial line all the way back to the beachhead, because that's where the action happened. Dunkirk was successful because of that, not the fact that boats turned up. So shame there. I rather was hoping when the film was announced that it might break new ground and tell the story that deserves to be told, but no, they went back with the cliches of the little boats and the Spitfires and all the old stuff that is just very easy to wheel out, but unfortunately for me, made it a huge disappointment. What a shame.
Remember, lard is for life and not just for Christmas.